show will be about. Just follow Brian at Brian J. Fisher.
Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Great to have you with us. If you would like to join the program here in the last half hour, talk about basically what I'd like to hear from you is your comments about 9/11. We're coming up on the anniversary tomorrow, particularly your reaction to General Boykin and his comments. I thought it was kind of striking. He said, look, it's time to come home from Afghanistan, and it's impossible to build a democratic republic in a Muslim nation. We have got to seal our borders. He doesn't think Islam deserves First Amendment protections when it functions as a totalitarian ideology. We have a leadership in America that does not represent or does not recognize the threat that Islam represents. So I'd like to get your reactions to all of that, particularly in light of the fact we're coming up on the anniversary of 9/11. And by the way, the Border Patrol, speaking of tightening up the borders, the Border Patrol has announced that they are no longer going to fly illegal immigrants back to Mexico. It was costing $100 million. It was for first-time offenders and their families. I believe in that. I believe we ought to keep families together. This whole business about family unification is used. Well, we can't send just one person home. And I agree. Let's send the whole family home. Let's repatriate the whole family. We believe in family integrity. We believe if one member of the family does not have a legal right to be in the United States, then we offer the entire family to be repatriated. We will repatriate you to your homeland so your family can stay together, and then leave it up to the family. If the family wants to fracture and just have the one or two or three members that have no legal right to be here go back home, then that would be their choice, but we want to keep them all together. So these flights have been flying people, illegal aliens, back to Mexico. They've called that off since 2004. They'd sent 125,000 passengers. Now, the interesting thing here to me, listen to this. This is interesting. The U.S. government tried to convince Mexico to allow Mexican criminals to fly back on the planes, but the Mexican government didn't want to have criminals sitting next to families and the elderly, so that did not work out. So we'll see where all of that goes. Anyway, let's 888-589-8840, your just reaction to what we're coming up on 9/11. Here is clip one. This is Barack Obama. While you're calling in, we'll play a couple of sound bites. Barack Obama apparently has the same problem with math that Joe Biden had. Remember, Joe Biden says what Barack Obama is about is a three-letter word, J-O-B-S. Well, here is President Obama making a similar mistake.
Making products that we sell around the world stamped with three proud words, made in the USA.
That's four. Three proud words, made, that's one, in, two, the, that's third letter, USA, that's at least four words. So that is Barack Obama going to the Joe Biden School of Creative Math. Now here is Representative Joe Walsh. This is clip two. Sandra Fluke, remember, she was the Georgetown law student. She said, look, the government has got to provide protection. We cannot afford to provide protection. We want to be able to have a lot of promiscuous sexual activity. We can't afford to buy protection, so the government has an obligation to provide it for us. Here's what Joe Walsh, and she was a featured speaker at the Democratic National Convention. She was in prime time at the DNC. Here's what Representative Joe Walsh had to say to Sandra Fluke.
So at the Democratic Convention, Wednesday night, your first primetime speaker was Sandra Fluke, Fluke, whatever her name is. Think about this. A 30, 31, 32-year-old law student who's been a student for life, who gets up there in front of a national audience and tells the American people, I want America to pay for my contraceptives. You're kidding me. Go get a job. Go get a job, Sandra Fluke.
So that's Joe Walsh's advice to Sandra Fluke, and it's good. You want contraceptives, get a job, and buy your own. That is the American way. Now, Cokie Roberts, she is a long-time reporter in Washington, D.C., and it's interesting. She's very disturbed here in this soundbite about the emphasis that the Democratic Party placed on abortion at the DNC. Here's what she had to say.
The issue of abortion, you took out language from previous platforms that said it should be safe, legal, and rare. And I think this Democratic convention was really over the top in terms of abortion. Every single speaker talked about abortion. And, you know, at some point you start to alienate people. 30% of Democrats are pro-life.
No,
and
but hold on, stop for a second. We had leaders of the Catholic Church, leaders in the Catholic faith in our convention. I'm every single speaker. I was one of them. I didn't mention abortion at all. What we did mention was that we don't think we should be gutting family planning. We don't think we should be attacking Planned Parenthood. If you want to make abortion safe, legal, and rare, support women's rights, women's access to health care. So you're worried about those three words? I'm worried about real substantive policy, like access to health planning for families. That's what I'm interested in. One candidate says we should gut family planning. We should gut Planned Parenthood. Another candidate says we should support those things because at the end of the day, not only does it make economic sense, but it makes moral sense as well.
So that was Cory Booker, mayor of Newark, challenging Cokie Roberts, but she had the honesty to say, as a journalist, look, it was over the top on abortion at the DNC. Now here's Don Lemon of CNN, and he actually makes an effort to do some genuine journalism with Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and they have a fairly heated exchange over Debbie Wasserman Schultz telling a flat-out lie on camera. Here is how the exchange went.
We wanted to make sure, and President Obama wanted to make sure, that the platform reflected his personal view about Jerusalem being the capital of Israel and remaining the capital of Israel. That's my personal view as well. And the platform was amended to do that. It was an omission. And, you know, in fact, when we went through the platform
wasn't that language in the platform before?
It was the language on Jerusalem was in the platform in 2008, and President Obama, and that reflected President Obama's personal view. And when he realized it had been omitted, he insisted that it be reinserted. And in fact, there was
as you're
never
drafting
any
this, you don't do a cut and paste and with the platform from 2008 and now side by side, and no one looks at that and goes, oh, wait a minute, come on, Congresswoman, don't you think people appreciate candor more than anything?
Yes, and I don't appreciate you suggesting that I'm being anything less than candid.
So she gets offended. You know, what Don Lemon is saying, look, this didn't happen by accident. Those words just didn't fall out of the Democratic platform just kind of by accident because somebody wasn't looking and they slipped away. That's not how this happens. It's very, very deliberate. And she gets all huffy that he would suggest that she was being anything less than candid. Here's how the second part of their exchange went. Let's listen.
I have never been accused of being anything less than candid. Directness is not my problem.
Well, I would say that is, over the last couple of weeks, there are people, I've read things that said, Debbie Wasserman Schultz will say anything, even if it's true or false, to prove her point.
You're right. There are right-wing Republicans that spend a lot of time trying to suggest that.
And he wound up apologizing all over himself in the rest of that interview. So he got swatted down, and that was the end of that experiment in genuine journalism at CNN. Well, let's go to the phones, 888-589-8840. Let's go to Kurt in Grants Pass, Oregon. Kurt, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What are your thoughts about 9/11?
Well, Brian, thank you for taking my call. I'm one of those that wants to know the truth. And I have about 4 or 5 DVDs about 9/11 in those buildings.
Now, what do you think, Kurt? What part of the truth do you think we do not know?
That it was. I'm going to refer to a book I just got recently, Extreme Prejudice, The Terrifying Story of the Patriot Act and the Cover-Ups of 9/11 in Iraq by Susan Lindauer. She was an asset. She knew ahead of time about the 93 World Trade Center going to happen. She knew about the U.S. coal, and when asked about 9/11, it was both planned and a terrorist attack. It was known ahead of time, and I was just talking to somebody else just the other day. Was it a plane that hit the Pentagon, or was it a missile or something? Because there's no evidence of a plane. So,
well, but Kurt, I've actually seen footage of the plane.
Where's the tail section?
I've seen footage of the front of the plane.
Where's the tail section?
Well, the video didn't have the camera angle wasn't wide enough to get the entire plane.
Where's the black box?
So Kurt, are you telling me that you honestly believe that President Bush knew the attack was happening and did nothing to stop it?
Yes.
Oh, Kurt, I find that
Brian,
just impossible to believe.
If you are a Christian, you shall know the truth. The truth will set you free. I suggest you get this book by somebody that was involved behind the scenes at an asset. And that's what's wrong with Christians. We want to trust President Bush. He was friends with Saddam Hussein, the Bush family.
Kurt, I got to stop you here. Kurt, there is no way, Kurt, that President Bush knew that this was going to happen, because if he had known, President Bush would have made an effort to stop it. That just goes beyond I just cannot stretch my imagination that far. Well, listen, Kurt, I appreciate it. Kurt does a lot of research, does a lot of reading, and I appreciate your input there, Kurt, but I'm going to have to part company with you on that. Let's go to Jesse in Green Hill, Tennessee. Jesse, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What do you think about Islam in America and General Boykin's comments?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that 9/11 was an event that utterly changed our country, and we will never forget, and we can never forget. But we also must separate Islam from 9/11. So true, it was Islamic terrorists who attacked us on 9/11. They followed a very narrow strain of Islam. I believe it's called Wahhabism with Salafist influences. And I also believe that we should not shut down our borders, and we should not prevent devout Muslim soldiers from participating in the army.
Well, Jesse, let me ask you this question. You say this is a narrow strain, but the Quran itself, which is the holy book of Islam, this is their Bible. It has a command from Allah through the Prophet Muhammad, slay the idolaters wherever you find them. That's not fringe Islam. That is Islam. That's mainstream Islam. Slay the idolaters wherever you find them. So it's not just fringe elements of Islam that are doing this, Jesse. These are devout Muslims that are following the instructions of their God and their holy book.
Let me ask you this, Brian. Does every Christian follow every word of the Bible?
No.
You think that every Christian should follow every word of the Bible?
Absolutely. They ought to love their enemies and pray for them. That's because that's what Christianity teaches Christians to do. The problem, Jesse, is that what Islam teaches its followers to do is to kill us. Slay the idolaters wherever you find them. So how, Jesse, can you tell the difference? Can you give me in 15 seconds, can you tell me how we can tell the difference between a moderate Islam and a devout Muslim who wants to kill us? How do we tell the difference between them?
What chapter and what verse of the Quran is that?
That is Surah 929. Look it up, Surah 9:5, Surah 9:25. Look it up. Call us back if it says anything else. Focal Point AFR Talk, back with more of your phone calls, 888-589-8840, back on Tuesday.